The Commonwealth cars are fewer in number. The halls of power eerily empty, as lockdowns and border restrictions keep many MPs away from COVID-free Canberra.
Honourable members, the Speaker.
The Prime Minister had 2 jobs this year and he failed at both of them.
But inside Parliament, the politics of the pandemic are now more contested than ever before.
Anyone who thinks that the Prime Minister only has 2 jobs is not up for the job, Mr Speaker. He's not up for the job.
Labor is proposing cash for vax.
The opposition returned from the winter break with a populist headline-grabbing plan.
Anthony Albanese proposing a $300 payment for all Australians who get vaccinated by December 1st.
Think it's running hot? You're right.
The perfect fodder for breakfast TV and radio, it was designed to focus public attention on the problem-plagued vaccine rollout.
John says Albo's channeling Oprah. You get 300, you get 300, everyone gets $300.
We know that this would provide a discussion point.
It's not a discussion the government is keen to have. The idea won't be implemented.
Frankly, it's a little bit insulting to the many millions of Australians who know the best way and reason to get a vaccine is because it protects their lives and those of their loved ones.
We have an order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go on then.
But for an opposition that sometimes struggled to get any airtime, it served a purpose. For once, Labor spent the morning the centre of attention.
Perhaps they don't recognise the idea of a program that's applicable to everyone rather than done with a colour-coded sheet based upon marginal electorates.
Of course, the opposition is just doing what savvy oppositions tend to do, focusing on a government weakness and then offering a seemingly simple solution, all while a Prime Minister who is under increasing pressure has the more complex tasks of actually ensuring more people get vaccinated and explaining what we need to do to avoid more strict lockdowns.
This has been a long war against this virus, and there have been many, many battles. And this is a fierce one when it comes to the Delta strain.
Flanked by his most important health advisors, Scott Morrison today unveiled modelling from the Doherty Institute and the Federal Treasury, which is helping plot Australia's path out of the pandemic. He says the data shows life can be much more normal once 80% of the population has received 2 jabs.
Then you are dealing with a scenario that's not unlike living with an infectious disease like the flu. So there will always be infectious diseases resulting in hospitalisation and indeed in death.
Even at 80%, the modelling suggests about 1,300 people could die in the first 180 days of an uncontrolled outbreak. At 70%, 2,000 lives could be lost and total hospitalisations would be just below 20,000. However, things are substantially more grim with vaccination rates of just 60 or 50%. The government says it would intervene to ensure those worst-case scenarios wouldn't ever eventuate, and until vaccination rates are much higher, more lockdowns are likely.
Can you still describe New South Wales as having a gold standard response?
Well, they've been very successful to date, obviously, in dealing with outbreaks and avoiding.
But it's quite the failure this time around, isn't it?
Even though it once praised New South Wales for avoiding sweeping restrictions on normal life due to the emergence of the Delta variant, it now wants premiers to move as fast as possible.
Early interventions, short, sharp lockdowns, are the most cost-effective way to handle the virus, particularly at the current time. And so what Treasury have found is that at 50 and 60% vaccination rates, it's 5 times more costly should governments not move early to get on top of the virus.
The modelling also suggests the priority of the vaccine rollout should shift. Now that many of the most vulnerable have received their jabs, epidemiologists say younger Australians are the key.
In this virus case, it's really the 20 to 39 years category who are the peak spreaders, and they will bring COVID home to their children, they will take it home to their own parents, and this is the group now where we're proposing a reorientation of the strategy.
The government's plan presumes state and territory leaders across Australia will be working together. And, of course, as we've seen, that isn't likely to always be the case. One potential flashpoint among premiers in the near future could be when New South Wales starts to relax its restrictions.
Certainly that's our aim. On August 29, we want to see or be able to ease restrictions, but that will depend on where the case numbers are at, but also, of course, what the vaccination rate is at.
The state's leader is hopeful of suppressing the Sydney outbreak and administering an extra 6 million jabs this month, though it will take longer than that to hit the recommended 80% target.
We know that 10 million jabs gives us 80% of the adult population vaccinated. 6 million jabs is roughly half the population with at least 1 or 2 doses. That gives us additional options as to what life looks like on the 29th of August.
Those COVID-19 outbreaks around Australia are largely obscuring other efforts to scrutinise government spending. A new study of grant programs out today suggests taxpayers are at risk of forking out more than $10 billion on projects such as car parks and security cameras without proper checks on ministerial power. The so-called sports rorts in the lead-up to the last election brought the issue to the nation's attention. Now, an independent group featuring several former judges is demanding tougher parliamentary oversight and a federal corruption watchdog to prevent funding for community projects being funnelled into government-held or marginal seats in the lead-up to the next poll.
I'm actually horrified at the prospect of another election. Surely we can't go down this path again. Surely, there's been enough outcry and public outrage over this that we could expect an end to this sort of behaviour.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.